We often look at confident people and assume they were born that way. We tell ourselves they must have some special spark, some DNA-coded assurance that lets them walk into rooms without flinching, speak up without second-guessing, and take risks without fear. But that's a lie we tell ourselves to stay safe. Because if confidence is a gift handed out at birth, then we're off the hook. We don't have to try. We don't have to risk failure or exposure. We just accept that it skipped us. But here's the truth. Confidence is not a birthright. It's a practice. Confidence is built moment by moment, inch by inch. It's what we earn when we show up even when our hands are shaking. It's forged in the fire of trying, falling, and rising again. You don't build confidence by waiting to feel ready. You build it by doing the hard thing while you still feel unsure. Let me say that again. Confidence is a result, not a requirement. You build it the day you speak up in a meeting, even though your voice cracks. You build it when you raise your hand and say, I don't know, instead of pretending. You build it every time you step outside your comfort zone and choose growth over ease. And here's something no one tells you. Every confident person you admire has had moments of deep self-doubt. What makes them different isn't that they never doubted, it's that they didn't let the doubt decide who they would be. Confidence is built in the small, unglamorous choices, the ones no one claps for. It's built when you keep your word to yourself, when you fail and try again, when you look in the mirror and choose to be kinder instead of cruel. So if you're waiting to feel confident before you act, stop waiting. Confidence doesn't come first. Action does. The more you do the hard thing, the braver you become. The more you show up, the more trust you build in yourself. And that trust, that belief that you can handle hard things, is the soil where real confidence grows. You don't have to fake it, you don't have to hustle for it, you just have to build it, step by honest step. Conviction isn't volume. It's not who shouts the loudest or who draws the sharpest line in the sand. Conviction is quiet, steady, and rooted. It's the inner anchor that holds you still when life is trying to knock you sideways. And here's what many people miss. Conviction is not about being right, it's about being clear. When you have conviction, you're not driven by the need to impress, prove, or persuade. You're guided by something deeper, your why, that core purpose, that personal truth, that unwavering reason. You get back up when it would be easier to quit. Knowing your why is what turns noise into clarity. It cuts through the chaos of opinions, expectations, and pressure. When the world tries to tell you who you should be, your why whispers who you are. Let's talk about what this looks like in real life. When you know your why, you can say no without guilt and yes without fear. You stop measuring yourself against other people's metrics of success, and you start honoring your own definition of meaning. You're no longer hustling for worth. You're rooted in it. Conviction doesn't mean you'll never doubt or second guess yourself. It means that even in the middle of uncertainty, you return to your why like a compass. You can be terrified and still speak the truth. You can feel exposed and still stand tall. That's what conviction does. It grounds your courage in something that can't be taken from you. Now here's the tricky part. Your why isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's buried beneath layers of fear, conditioning, and what the world has told you matters. You may have to dig. You may have to sit with discomfort. Ask yourself hard questions. Peel back stories that no longer serve you. But once you find it, Once you land on a why that is yours, you will never walk the same way again. Your why might be your children, your healing, your faith, your desire to break generational patterns, your commitment to truth, your love of justice, your belief that people matter. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It just has to be honest. Conviction born from clarity doesn't chase approval. It moves with purpose. It doesn't seek applause. It seeks alignment. And when you live from that place, you walk differently. Your spine straightens, your voice steadies, your eyes stop darting around the room looking for permission because you already have it from yourself. And here's the beautiful thing. When you live with conviction, you give others permission to do the same. When you live from your why, you become an invitation. You show people what it looks like to lead with integrity and to walk with intention, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, even when you're scared. Conviction is not about having all the answers. It's about knowing what questions matter most. And at the center of it all is one: why am I doing this? When you know your why, you can withstand the storm. You can walk through criticism, rejection, even failure, and not lose yourself. Because you're not walking for applause, you're walking with conviction. And that kind of walk, it changes the world, starting with your own. We grow up thinking courage looks like armor, like unshakable strength, bold declarations, and a fearless face. We're taught that bravery means having it all together, charging into battle without hesitation, never letting anyone see you sweat. But that's not real courage, that's performance. Real courage is raw, it's tender, and it always, always requires vulnerability. Because here's the truth we try to avoid. You cannot be brave without risking something. And the first thing you will always risk is your heart. Vulnerability is the willingness to show up when you can't control the outcome. It's letting yourself be seen when it would be easier to hide. It's choosing to speak the truth when silence feels safer. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's the most accurate measure of courage we have. Or think about it. It takes courage to say, I don't know. It takes courage to be the first to say, I love you. It takes courage to raise your hand and ask for help. It takes courage to apologize and mean it. It takes courage to admit you're hurting, to stand up for what's right, to dream out loud. None of that is possible without vulnerability. We live in a culture that tells us to be bulletproof, to stay 2 steps ahead of embarrassment, to armor up before we walk into the world. But you can't connect with people through a wall. You can't lead with your heart when it's wrapped in iron. You can choose comfort or you can choose courage, but you can't have both. Courage is the parent who says, I'm scared, but I'll show up for my kids anyway. It's the artist who shares their work and risks rejection. It's the entrepreneur who launches something they believe in, knowing it might fail. It's the everyday person who dares to tell the truth in a world that rewards pretending. There's a quiet, holy bravery in vulnerability. It's not the kind that gets a standing ovation. It's the kind that builds trust, that opens doors to connection, that tells others it's safe to be real here. And in a world that often feels disconnected and defensive, that is radical. But let's be clear, vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing. It doesn't mean spilling everything to everyone or abandoning boundaries. Vulnerability is not about being emotionally naked with people who haven't earned the right to hear your story. It's about being honest not exposed. Real, not raw, for the sake of reaction. When you let yourself be vulnerable, you create space for courage to grow. You begin to trust that you can handle the hard moments, not because they won't hurt, but because you've survived them before. You become someone who doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. You stop hustling for worth and start standing in it. You learn to say, this is me. I'm not finished, I'm still becoming, and I'm still showing up. And that's courage, not the loud kind that breaks through the noise, but the deep kind that changes lives quietly, one moment of bravery at a time. So the next time you feel the fear creeping in, the voice that says, play it safe, shrink back, stay hidden, remind yourself, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to show up with your whole heart anyway. You don't need to be fearless to be brave. You just need to be willing. We live in a culture that idolizes ease. We're taught that success should feel effortless, that healing should be linear, that confidence should come without cost. We chase comfort like it's a destination, believing if we just get things right, life will finally feel smooth, manageable, painless. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the stretch. It happens in the strain. It happens in the uncomfortable middle between where you are and where you want to be. You cannot become more of yourself while clinging to the version of you that's never been tested. We like to think there's a way around the discomfort, that we can somehow evolve without exposure, that we can build resilience without facing resistance. But the reality is there is no transformation without tension, no clarity without confusion, no becoming without unraveling. Discomfort is the price of admission to a life of depth, purpose, and real growth. It's the awkward silence in a hard conversation you didn't want to have, but needed to. It's the ache in your chest when you admit this isn't working anymore. It's the sting of failure after you put yourself out there and it didn't go as planned. It's the quiet grief of outgrowing parts of your life that once felt like home. Discomfort doesn't mean something's wrong. It often means something's beginning. Growth isn't clean, it's messy. It's the shedding of what no longer serves you, even if it once did. It's the relearning of how to trust yourself. It's sitting in the space between the old and the new without rushing to fill it with noise or numbness. But most of us weren't taught how to sit in discomfort. We were taught to avoid it, distract from it, deny it. We reach for anything to take the edge off. A scroll, a snack, a snarky comment, a shutdown. We want relief, not reckoning. But avoidance is a short-term solution with long-term consequences. Every time you avoid discomfort, you delay your growth. Every time you face it with openness and honesty, you expand your capacity for resilience, for connection, for truth. Growth asks you to lean in when you want to run, to stay curious when you want to control, to soften when everything inside you wants to armor up. It takes guts to be uncomfortable and not make it mean something is broken. It takes maturity to feel pain and not immediately try to fix or flee it. It takes grace to sit in the in-between and trust that clarity will come. And here's the gift inside the struggle. The more discomfort you're willing to tolerate in service of your values, your healing, your purpose, the more powerfully you grow. You start to realize discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It's what stretches your courage. It's what reveals your strength. It's what reminds you that you're capable of doing hard things and still staying whole. So the next time you're in the middle of something painful or uncertain, don't rush to escape it. Sit with it, listen to it, ask it what it's trying to teach you. You might be in the middle of becoming, and that, my friend, is sacred ground. You don't have to like discomfort, you just have to stop running from it. Because every time you stay with it, you are choosing growth, you are choosing yourself, and you are choosing to walk through fire, not to be burned, but to be forged. It sounds simple, but it isn't, because approval is addictive. It starts early when we learn that gold stars and good behavior get us love, attention, and safety. We become masterful shapeshifters. We learn how to read the room. We learn how to shrink, perform, and edit ourselves to fit what others want us to be. And for a while, it works. We get praise, we get applause, we get to belong, or so we think. But slowly something starts to feel off. We wake up tired, not just physically, but soul tired. We notice a gap between who we are and how we're showing up. We feel lonely even when we're surrounded. Because deep down, we know approval is not the same as belonging. And fitting in is not the same as being seen. When we trade authenticity for approval, we abandon ourselves bit by bit. And the longer we do it, the more we lose touch with who we really are. Our boundaries blur, our voices soften, our dreams shrink. We become a curated version of ourselves, built for acceptance, but starved of connection. Here's the shift. Authenticity is the practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we really are. It's not about being loud or rebellious or radically different. It's about being honest. It's about knowing what matters to you and living in a way that reflects that, even when it's unpopular, even when it costs you the approval you've been taught to crave. And yes, choosing authenticity is risky. It means some people won't get you. It means you might disappoint others. It means you will have to sit in the tension of this is who I am when someone was hoping for something else. But you know what else it means? It means you start to like the person you see in the mirror. It means your relationships become real, not rehearsed. It means you find a sense of peace that doesn't depend on whether everyone claps. Authenticity is not a destination, it's a daily decision, 1,000 small choices to tell the truth, to honor your limits, to say no when it's easier to say yes, to speak up when your voice shakes, to stop pretending. And the beautiful paradoxical truth, when you stop chasing approval and start showing up as yourself, your people will find you, the ones who don't need you to perform, the ones who love you, not despite your edges, but because of them. Authenticity is what creates trust. It's what makes leadership real. It's what makes love last. Because you cannot be truly loved if you're not truly known, and you can't be known if you're always wearing a mask. So ask yourself, are you living a life that feels good or just one that looks good? Are you constantly editing your truth to keep the peace? Are you building a version of yourself that others approve of while slowly erasing who you really are? You were not put here to be palatable. You were not put here to make everyone comfortable. You were not born to be perfect. You were born to be whole. Approval is fleeting. It changes with trends, moods, and opinions. But authenticity, that's solid ground. That's home. That's where confidence and conviction are born. So take off the mask. Come as you are. Let the world see the real you, not the filtered, polished version. the messy, bold, brave version, the one who dares to be honest. Because when you choose authenticity over approval, you stop living a life that pleases the crowd and you start living a life that matters. We spend so much of our lives wondering if we're making a difference. We question whether our choices matter, whether our small steps count, whether our voice carries any real weight in a loud and crowded world. But here's the truth most of us never get told. Someone is watching your walk. And because you keep walking, they'll believe they can too. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be the loudest in the room. You don't have to have 1 million followers, a perfect story, or a polished platform. You just have to live your life with honesty, with intention, with integrity. Because the way you walk through this world, the way you carry yourself with courage, the way you fall and rise again, the way you speak your truth when your voice shakes, that matters. And people are watching, not to judge, but to find hope. Every time you choose to walk with confidence and conviction, you give others permission to do the same. When you own your story instead of hiding it, someone else feels less alone. When you set a boundary and stick to it, someone else realizes they can do it too. When you choose purpose over people-pleasing, someone else begins to question who they've been living for. When you say, "This is who I am," with your whole chest, someone else exhales for the first time in a long time. That's the power of your walk. You are not just living for yourself, whether you know it or not. You are planting seeds through your honesty, your resilience, your quiet acts of bravery. You are becoming a lighthouse for someone still lost in the fog. And you may never know the ripple effect your life creates. It could be a child watching how you handle failure, a coworker watching how you speak up in hard conversations, a friend noticing how you show up even when you're scared, a stranger who saw your tears and realized they weren't the only one feeling broken that day. You don't get to choose how others perceive us, but we do get to choose how we show up. And when you walk with integrity, when you lead with love, when you move through the world aligned with your values, you lead others out of their fear and into their truth. Your walk doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be real. That's what inspires people, not the curated highlight reel, but the courageous, flawed, fully human journey, the one that says, "I'm still learning, I'm still standing, I'm still here." And maybe the most beautiful part of it all, you never know whose life you're changing just by refusing to give up on your own. So keep walking, even when the path is unclear, even when it's hard and holy and heavy, even when it feels like no one sees you, because someone does. Your walk might be the reason someone keeps going. Your truth might be the invitation they didn't know they needed. Your courage might be the mirror that reflects their own back to them. We lead not just by what we say, but by how we live. And when you walk with confidence and conviction, you don't just move forward, you help others rise. You make the path wider. You light the way. Is still carrying the weight of voices that told you who you should be. But I want you to hear this clearly, gently, and without apology. You are allowed to walk with confidence and conviction, not because you have it all figured out, not because the path ahead is certain, not because you're fearless, but because you've chosen to show up anyway. You've chosen to know your why, even when it would be easier to drift. You've chosen to embrace vulnerability, even when the world says, toughen up. You face discomfort and walked through it instead of around it. You've taken off the mask and chosen authenticity over applause. And you've walked not just for yourself, but for those watching, those waiting for someone to go first. And here's what I hope you carry with you. You don't need to wait until you're unshakable to take the next step. Confidence, it's loud, it's steady. It's built in the quiet moments where you choose truth over comfort, growth over ease, purpose over popularity. Conviction doesn't mean you never question yourself. It means you know what matters and you're willing to walk toward it even when your legs tremble. So keep walking, keep choosing your truth, keep standing in your story, because the world doesn't need more polished people. It needs more honest ones. It needs people who dare to walk with open hearts, steady hands, and unwavering souls. And when you walk with confidence and conviction, you don't just change your life, you change the atmosphere. You show others what's possible. You remind them what courage looks like. Yeah, you call them back to themselves. That's how movements begin. That's how legacies are built. That's how healing spreads. Not in one grand moment, but in thousands of quiet steps taken by people just like you. So take the step and own your walk, and never forget, story is not a side note, it's the path. And your walk is the invitation